I'm going to read the third piece that I had accepted for the recently published Animal Tales 13, which was published in 2019. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, had to sing for it. And because I had to show the photo that accompanies it, which I don't know if I'll be holding up the whole time, that's this one. You can see my one side of my big whale shot going through.
We love whales.
Yeah, that's why I've been eating a lot. I have nothing for that. And I can't hold that up for you. But I would like to find. It apparently is not. I had it bookmarked and then it disappeared. I will find it eventually. I will, I promise I will. But I've got time to kill, so. This was called On the Bridge. And seriously, when I first wrote this poem, I thought that it could have been like Star Trek or something, being on the bridge of a spaceship, the way I described it. But it's not. It's actually a bridge. This is called On the Bridge. The captain invited us onto the bridge, and we cautiously walked and watched the majestic view from the front of the ship, searching for what was yet to be found. But lucky us, crewmates saw it, the first humpback whales of the season. So the captain gently slowed the ship down, just to try to glide alongside. And maybe the whales were as curious as we, because after a few minutes of gliding, 3 humpback whales came along beside, trying to learn what we might be hiding. Our intentions were pure, but maybe they knew we would never be truly alike. So they blew from their blowholes, turned with their fins, and with their tails they turned the other way. Yes, it's true, we're not alike. They turned back as we moved ahead, but I think we both learned from each other, and we grew through our final goodbye. I was honored to be on that bridge that day. I was honored he gave us that chance to commune with something so different from us that helps, in a way, make us the same. And so I now find one piece from this every event of the year. Dun, 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 dun. That's good. I have to come up with music when I show it to you. I have no idea what that's about. But it was just very recently printed, and so that's why I've got to share these things off. And this was in this book because of Arbor Day. And it's called Earth Was Alive and Dying. I had a dream the other night. I walked out of the city to a forest, and there were neatly paved bicycle paths and trash cans every 50 feet. And trash every 10. And I walked deeper into the forest, managed to get away from the picnic tables and the outhouses that lined the forest edges. The roaring cars gave way to the rustling of tree branches, crackling of fallen leaves under my step. When the wind tunneled through, the wind whistled and sang as it flew past the bark and leaves. I walked, listened to the crack of dead branches under my feet, and I felt a branch up against my shoulder, and I looked up, and I could hear the trees speak to me. And they said, "Thank you for letting the endangered animals live here amongst us. We do think they are so pretty, and it would be a shame to see them go. And thank you for recycling paper, because you're saving us for just a little while longer. We've been on this planet for so long, embedded in the earth. We do have souls, you know. You can hear it in our songs. We cling with our roots. We don't want to let go." And I said, but I don't do much. I don't do enough. And they said, "We know, but we'll take what we can get." And then I woke up in a sweat. Do you even know why we should save the rainforest? Oh, preserve the delicate balance. Just tear the whole forest down. What difference does it make? Put in some orange groves, or concentrate orange juice can be a little cheaper. Did you know that medical researchers have a really very hard time trying to come up with synthetic cures for diseases on their own? It helps them out if they can first find a substance in nature and a tree that appears in the rainforest that may be the only one of that species with a cure, or one like it maybe 2 miles away instead of right next to it. I wonder how many more cures we've destroyed to plant more orange groves. Serves us right. Everything is linked here. We destroy our animals so we can be wasteful and violent. We destroy our plants. We destroy our earth. We're even destroying our air. We wreak havoc on our air. We wreak havoc on the soil, on our atmosphere. We dump our wastes into our lakes. We pump aerosol cans and exhaust pipes. And these animals and these forests keep calling out to me. The oceans, the wind. In the wild, you have no power over anyone else. Now that we're civilized, we create our own wild. Maybe when we have all this power, the only choice we have is to destroy ourselves. And so we do. That's what I would get for putting in deep pauses right at the end. What? That's it? Thank you very much. And this is, I'm looking for a longer one that's in this Pharaoh Memes book. Why am I doing that with every book? I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. I don't know what my issue with that is. I'm sorry. But this is called Old Stomping Grounds, and for those of you who don't know, I am a Chicagoan, and yay, Chicago! And I actually feel bad that I'm going to be missing going to community poetry at Half Price Books, because I will be on a plane. I will be arriving in Chicago while that's going on, which I feel triple plus bad that I'm not. I feel bad that I'm missing out on it. I do. I just want to let you know.
Like Chicago Levitating.
I'll do what I can.
She actually does feel bad about it.
I do.
She's not just saying that,
I know,
because when
but
I
I
told
would
her,
like to be there.
I told
really
her, she's
would.
like, oh, I thought we were leaving after that.
I thought I would have missed it. I thought it would have been. I
thought
thought
we were
it was
leaving
late
in the
enough in the month
evening.
that I would have been able to go to that and read and share off these books at a different bookstore. But I guess I'll just talk about poetry stuff. This is called. I'll talk about Chicago stuff and poetry stuff. This is called Old Stomping Grounds. Stories have been told that when the Chicago Mafia would dispose of bodies a century ago, they would bury them in what is now forest preserves in Chicago's southwest suburbs. A few decades after the Chicago mob had made its mark, scientists developed the first self-sustaining nuclear reactor at the University of Chicago under the west viewing stands of their football stadium. Operational for only 1 year, this Chicago Pile 1 was disassembled and buried at one of the forest preserves in a southwest suburb of Chicago. I doubt my dad was feeling scientific or even thinking about his father-in-law, who did odd jobs for the mob when he first got into America back in the day. But my dad decided to move out of Chicago and into the southwest suburbs. He could get a ton of land for cheap, and his concrete company could then have him build a nice big home for him and his family. It was a nice place to raise kids, but far enough away from Chicago to still need to use 50-pound salt blocks for well water. It was a simpler life, riding our bikes around those nearby forest preserves, and I never got radiation burns there, and I didn't discover any dead bodies either. So I don't know if it was the mafia or the scientists who gentrified the area south and west of Chicago, and I can't say it was my father's doing, but all I know is that after he lived there for a while, his whole town became so upscale. So this is when I moved back into Chicago, but when I did, very straight me moved into a very gay neighborhood. Unlucky for me, I couldn't stay, so I moved not to where my friends live, but very white me moved to a very Hispanic neighborhood, just north of where the gangs would pick you out because of the color of your skin. And yeah, I lived there for years. The rent was cheap. I had more space, though I got tired of people breaking into my car. It was almost like clockwork. Still, I'd walk alone at night, I'd watch my surroundings, and I'd always stayed safe. I was fine, really, because there was no other place I'd rather be. I've been moved away from Chicago for years now, but recently I went back and visited my old stomping grounds. I was stunned when I saw that the streets of my old neighborhood were now lined with martini bars, kitschy shops from local artists, and vegetarian restaurants. And although I don't believe it, that's when I was told that I must come from a long line of gentrifiers. Now, by the strict definition, that's not true. A gentrifier buys old houses and renovates them so that they're more upscale. I don't do that. I just move somewhere and change the neighborhood instead. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to remember this every time because I never do. We are going to take a group photo, and I'm going to, the way our once host Louise Gale Richardson would just say, I'm going to have to sing something for the end of my open mic. So don't be afraid to let your feelings show, because our love has stayed and I won't let you go. In love I abide, for to love I am bound, and I'll stay by your side with this love that I found. I love each and every one of you. We are not here next month, but I hope to see you on the first Sunday in October. And as I've heard people say, come on up here and let's get shot. Please get our group photo done. Thank you all. Thank you, every one of you.